in higher education. About 4 years later, the Virginia Tech tragedy happened, and the industry itself kind of crystallized around some core features that we had put in place. Our marketing folks like to say that we invented the modern notification space. I don't think that's true. I think we were just lucky to be there earlier than most. Today, we're going to talk about Gun Detect, and Gun Detect really grew as a logical extension from our early pieces. First, we did specialize in notification broadcast, which is that general ENS capability. Grew that into two-way communications and a feature that we call mass engagement. Added some automation and management tools to our platform. And then finally, a few years back, we started on our preventive measures. And that includes things like panic button capabilities, weather notification, automation, and the gun detection platform. The important thing to remember about Omnilert Gun Detect is that it is a visual solution. It is not a array of microphones deployed around an area listening for a gunshot, which is reactionary. It's not a walkthrough solution like metal detectors or those other firearm detection systems that you've got out there now, which are substantial hardware investment, tend to change the aesthetic of an office building or a campus. It is a visual solution that works by integrating with an existing security camera or surveillance system, if it's IP-based, and quite literally adds a second set of eyes to those cameras. In some cases, a first set of eyes, based on the number of cameras in some locations. There's obviously not enough individuals to keep a pair of eyes on those cameras all the time. Being a visual system, it actually has the ability to provide advanced warning of a potential emergency rather than waiting until it's too late and shots have already been fired. Gun Detect uses Omnilert's advanced artificial intelligence to monitor those camera feeds in real time. And that AI is able to detect long guns and handguns with a high degree of it is artificial intelligence. It's not an image matching system, database of guns looking to say, is that, a specific model of Colt revolver or a specific type of rifle. It is a neural network, what they call a black box artificial intelligence, that has been trained to analyze images, frame to frame to frame, looking for firearms. The big advantage of AI, of course, its ability to work in real time, 24/7, 365. We use a three-step detection system. AI is very sophisticated, and it looks for not just guns. We're not looking for guns on tables. We're not looking for guns in racks, guns in holsters. We're looking for guns in hand. We look specifically for people, then we look for guns. We look to make sure that those guns are interacting with those individuals as a gun should, that it's being held in a way a gun should be held, that it's moving in a way a gun should normally be moving. And we do this to reduce false positive detections. One of the big benefits of that is that we're not just looking for firearms. We're looking for threats. In a lot of areas of the country, having guns in public is not so uncommon in areas with open carry laws or in installations with a high number of law enforcement individuals. That could spawn many detections, which would eventually be useless. We also do use a human-in-the-loop validation. Gun Detect acts as a partner to safety personnel and passes those detections off to a selection of people or devices for validation. In the Omnilert world, we do have the ability to natively integrate with our emergency notification system, pushing those detections down to individuals where they are, to desktop computers, to cell phones via our application, or text messaging, so you can click through to see that information. And then using Omnilert's tools, you could technically push out your response from right there with a single click. However, we do integrate externally with a couple different ways. First off, we integrate with VMS solutions, pushing this out to your boots on the ground, where they are in your dispatch room, sitting in front of those cameras, giving the cameras and the VMS the ability to detect, pull up that camera, display the information to the individuals that are there. Basically, the VMS takes over and does what it does, whether that's logging, time stamping, calling a camera up, starting video, so that you can launch your own emergency response procedures. We also do offer a monitored model that would take those detection events and push them out to a monitoring site that would be able to kick off your emergency response plan for you, contacting first responders, letting the people in at risk, on-premises at risk, know what's going on. Upon confirmation, no matter how it happens, the initiating of response protocols can happen quickly. The approach of using a human-in-the-loop validation has the advantage of coupling the reliability of an artificial intelligence with the decision-making capabilities of a trained staff. Not every gun detected may represent the same threat. Now, we as with on-premises detection, and then we utilize the cloud for alerting. Detection software runs locally on an organization site using pretty standard PC hardware. Our only real requirement is going to be a high-end NVIDIA graphics card in those servers. The camera system must provide RTSP streams that we have the ability to monitor, whether that's a mainstream or a secondary stream. Either way, those RTSPs can or don't need to be necessarily in the ONVIF format. ONVIF just makes things a little bit easier. That means that we're compatible with most of the IP camera systems that are out there today. That detection system is going to integrate with a cloud-based alerting system, our OmniAlert network, if we're pushing messages out either to our application or to that third-party monitoring site. We also do deploy in a in-environment on-premises only mode, which would push directly to on-prem devices. Either way, alerts are validated either in the OmniAlert system or in those external devices. Once the type of situation has been identified, it's easy just to deploy a variety of responses predetermined to ensure the appropriate plan is executed quickly and flawlessly. Now we're going to take a pause from the presentation here for a moment. I'm going to show off just how exactly the detection system works. I'm going to bring over, hopefully you can still see my desktop. Please let me know. I'm going to kick up one of my cameras here so that we can see it. I got a couple things going on. First off, I've got my camera over here. This is a live camera in my home office. Pardon the mess. I've got my cell phone here just so you can see how the OmniAlert side pushes this out. The information that we're pushing out is going to be the same information that we're passing to other alert endpoints. And then I've got our OmniAlert desktop app here so we can see in real time what's going on. So I'm going to get up for a moment and I'm going to grab a couple things. I'm going to grab my cell phone and I'm going to grab a firearm and put it in my pocket. So you can see me there still, and my camera located up here. A couple other cameras in my house are running the Omnilert gun detection system. And the first thing you'll see is I'm drawing boxes. I'm drawing boxes around my hand because I've got my cell phone in it. We accidentally invented a pretty good cell phone detector because that is the most common false detection when you're talking with firearm detection analytics. They're looking for guns in hand, and cell phones are very often in hand. What the AI is doing is frame to frame to frame. I think I run about 25 frames per second here. We're analyzing video. So we're making 25 decisions per second, looking at a person, me, anyone else in the room. I'm home alone. And we're looking at my extremities, looking for what I'm interacting with in my environment, what I'm touching, what I'm doing, looking for firearms, so that when my hand makes this connection and enough of that gun is available, the system's looking frame to frame to make sure what's in my hand is not a threat. In this case, we're making these decisions in real time. You'll see a couple things happen here. I got a gun detected notice come up on my cell phone. I had the image of the event comes up on my desktop app. And as I'm waving my hand around, you'll notice sometimes I lose the gun, sometimes I go from red to orange, sometimes the tracking stops, and that is because we're making these decisions in real time. Whether it is a firearm, like a pistol, or in the rare occurrence, got a rifle, you'll see that what it's doing is it's tracking me, and we're looking to see how this is interacting with me. Specifically looking to make sure it's moving like a gun, that it's held like a gun. If it's, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. In this case, if I'm a person and I'm holding something we've identified as a weapon and it's naturally, a part of my arm in the right way, the butt is interacting with my hand the right way, obviously we're going to detect better at a ready position, but we're specifically looking for how this weapon interacts with a person. Over back on my desktop, you'll see a couple things happened when I got that detection event. I don't know if you heard the siren in the background or saw the lights flash. That's just our simple API that I'm pushing out to my Alexa devices. But on my desktop, you'll see I received a text message via the OmniAlert system, which is going to allow me to click through if I want to a mobile version of the OmniAlert app. The reason I'm showing the OmniAlert app, quite honestly, it's the easiest way for me to show you what happens when we push out a detection event. In our side, we're going to push out what we call a priority alert, but the information that we're including in it is exactly what we would push out to other connected devices. What is it? It's a detected gun. Where is it? Well, it was on my office camera, as well as giving you a latitude and longitude so you know where it is. And then lastly, we're going to push over two pieces of information specific to the detection itself. A still image of that detection event and a little bit of video. And I know that sometimes pushing video through Teams, things are a little granular. If you can't see it too well, I apologize. That video is going to give me just some context. It's going to give me about 10 seconds either side of the detection event so that I can see exactly what's the context wrapped around that detection, because not every gun detected is a threat. Not every still image that comes through might be crystal clear. We want to make sure that we're giving you everything that you have that we can in order to identify that weapon and make the appropriate choice. Within the OnAlert environment, what we would do from here is we could very quickly push out our notifications, making messaging to connected devices, SMS, email, voice, phone call, our app, connected access control systems, or what have you. If we were to push this out to management solutions, that third-party monitoring site, they would enact standard, on the something like Alice training, run, hide, fight. It's bringing that presentation back up. I do like to show just a couple other detection events, and that's what this video is. It's just some video that we fed through. Some of it was captured live, some of it was captured after the fact, just to show you how the gun detection system really identifies. We're looking for, as you see, firearms in hand. This is going to be looking for individuals. Those white boxes, we're in debugging mode here, showing it's identifying people first and foremost. Then we're looking for what's in hand, whether that's a rifle, whether that's a handgun, something else. The one thing I like about debugging mode as well is it's gonna pop that name up there, showing you that is a rifle that we've detected, that is a handgun that we've detected, that's a candidate that's unknown, or a cell phone. The system, when deployed, does go through a training phase. It is a learning piece of software. It's not a static, in-the-box solution. We run updates to this every few weeks, updating with new data grabbed from the field and from our testing labs. So we're adding new information all the time. We're training it not just to new weapons, not just to new situations, but also to new environments. When a camera is installed, we specifically train out possible false detections and specifically focus on areas that we need to. The system will evolve over time. Any false positives received early in the life cycle very quickly get trained out. This is something that is supported, going forward as a service. Every few weeks we run an update on it. The real meat and potatoes of the presentation. The one thing, if you can take away any one thing today, is it's really, like most firearm detection systems, all about prevention. Gun Detect integrates with cameras in place or new camera installations. We're able to detect firearms within seconds. As I said, from 10 to 60 frames per second, we're going to be analyzing that, making a decision on every frame. Detection happens fast. Notification, whether it's out to connected devices or out to individuals, reaching them by our technology, happens quickly. We are a best-of-breed emergency notification service. We pride ourselves on instant communication, whether it's from your server to your devices or from your server to individuals. Once the detection is received, personnel can vet and react in seconds, so that at the end of the day, the time from detection to action is seconds, not minutes, and it happens before a gun is fired, not in response to it. And that is pretty much my presentation start to finish. I know that we probably have some questions.
Yes, we have one question in the chat so far, and I think this was dropped in when you started doing your demo there at your house. And this person's just curious what kind of camera you're using and what kind of VMS you're using. And I guess overall, if you just reiterate,
Sure.
you know, what our options are.
In my house, I'm not using a video management solution. I'm literally viewing the detection straight on the server. This is you know, just our kind of view into the server that we've got here. Camera running here is a cheapo, quite honestly. I purchased it off of Amazon back in the day. I believe it's a Korean manufacturer. It is a 1080p just IP cam that I'm plugging straight into it. So if you see here, I've got a variety of cameras around my house. I've got a 4K camera in the other room. I've got a 720 that I never use because I have to actually be running it to view on it. But we're able to detect in a handful of situations. I believe the what kind of camera question usually leads to the next question, which is, well, what quality of camera do you need? How those streams need to work? What we like to see, there I see it right there, 15 frames per second. What we like to see in a camera stream is going to vary a little bit. We do like 15 frames per second. 10 frames per second is our minimum. Most people sending over do send about 15 frames per second just to save on bandwidth. As far as the type of camera, the resolution of the camera, our low end is going to be about a 1080p camera, although we can accept streams all the way up to 8K. I am pushing 8K feed at us. Most folks use somewhere between a 1080p and a 4K camera. And that's going to get you 1080p detections out to about 40 in ideal conditions. And that's on a 1080p camera.
Can you repeat that? You cut out a little bit.
Sorry, it's
detections up until
to about 40 in same metric.
I'm sorry, you keep breaking up every time the important info comes up.
Let me change to a different audio device. Okay. Maybe that'll help. Because I know this one sounds a lot better. Hopefully that's better?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So since I don't have to get up anymore, I can tie myself to the desk. So the 1080p cameras are going to get you detections out to about 40 feet. And that 40 feet is going to run on the same metric as license plate detections, which is another visual analytic that we share a lot in common with. Long story short, if you can zoom in and read a license plate, we should be able to detect a firearm on it. I've seen detections occur on 6K cameras out to about 220 feet. Depends on the width of your view, the field of view that we're dealing with. Most internal camera systems are going to be, have no problems running this analytic in what they can usually see. I have seen the software run up against fisheye 360-degree cameras. And in some cases, that's going to cause a little bit of an issue just because of the dewarping reduces the resolution a little bit. If you're talking about, a high number of cameras, as I see the next question came up, 1,000 cameras, 2,000 employees. Well, the number of cameras is just going to really affect how beefy that server or servers need to be. Our standard server recommendation runs somewhere between 50 and 200 cameras at a time, depending on resolution. However, the more video cards you put in there for processing, the more cameras we're going to be able to process. Or the more servers you have running multiple cards, obviously, the more cameras we're going to be able to process. Talking about the number of employees, that's not going to affect it as much as you think it would. Since we are looking for individuals and what they're interacting with, if you had 100 people in front of that camera view, the weakness of visual detection is we need to have a visual on the firearm. So if you've got a large crowd of people and someone's got a gun hidden in their pants in a backpack behind someone else and that camera's not able to see it, well, we're not going to be able to detect it. It's going to work very similar to a pair of human eyes. We're looking for guns. Yeah. Okay. I hope I answered those couple questions well enough.
I think so. Are there any further questions that anyone's thought of? If so, drop them in the chat or hop on your mic and feel free to ask.
In order to give folks a minute or two, I know typically I do get asked about privacy questions as well.
And sometimes there's concern of, well, we don't want our video feeds leaving the premises, that sort of thing. Since we do our detection on-prem and an on-prem server, that means your feeds aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay on premises. If you're using a external notification, our cloud-based side notification, the only thing that's going to leave your premises are going to be those detection events, the 4 pieces of information that I showed off on the OnAlert side: the name of the camera, the location of the camera, the still image, and a couple seconds of video. Those are the only things that leave premises. If you're doing a completely 100% on-premises installation, your feeds stay yours. The detection events would even stay yours. We would simply disable the cloud side. Notifications would be made only to your on-premises devices.
All right.
Eric, it's fascinating stuff. Would you mind going back to the slide that showed kind of the schematic or the architecture of the system?
Sure, and I do have to tell you, this is a slide put together by my marketing folks, not a slide put together by my tech folks. So
Sure.
Take it with a grain of salt. But what's specifically your question?
Well, I think there was a question in the chat about VMS compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make sure we're all clear. If my understanding is correct, you're really VMS agnostic. You don't care whether they're running Milestone or Hikvision or Hanwha or any of the other VMS platforms out there. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. If you're pushing out to a VMS device, we use a fairly open integration. We push everything over as an HTTP post, just pushing the JSON out there. So the data that we use is in that JSON. We do have some integrations already developed with a few VMS manufacturers. I know that we're in the works with a few others. Milestone's actually in development right now. I think we have, off the top of my head, the 2 that I've worked with are Genetec, and there's another fairly popular one that we deployed not too long ago. Long story short, I mean, I'm literally pushing that same integration that we use to integrate with Milestone or other folks, to push it out to my Alexa devices in-house, just so I can have a visual. It is a fairly open integration standard, and there's a lot you can do with it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, and then I have one from the chat as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry to jump on that. Does your system do desktop alert, that you can actually take over everyone's desktop and let them know that there's an active shooter on the premise?
You're talking about on the ENS side?
Yeah, on your on your old Omnilert. I'm having trouble pronouncing it. How do you pronounce it?
Omnilert. It's like OmniAlert without the A. Absolutely. Okay. Just to not to sidebar too much, if I'm pushing a message out, we do give you the ability to target that notice, whether to individuals or to desktops. And one of our endpoints is going to be a desktop alert, even above and beyond pushing it to the desktop app. So if I wanted to push out a message, just as a kind of an example here, like my test message, desktop takeover is a part of that.
Okay, that's
there's
great.
An audio component. There's a a still component. I could push imagery here as well, and then you do have the ability, when someone closes the window, to take that acknowledgement and display it as a part of our delivery details.
Thank you. And oh my God, my other question was handheld scanners. Somebody's going to let Taylor get this next one. That's a great question.
Yeah, the question from the chat is, we utilize handheld scanners that have kind of take on a shape of firearms. Mm-hmm. Will the software be able to rule out those scanners? And if you can see the chat, a picture has been dropped in just to kind of give you an idea.
Absolutely. Couple things here. First off, let me jump to this slide and let it play in the background while I talk, just so I can, when it gets to it, I'll bump out of it. We've done a lot of training on what is and what is not a firearm. Specifically what we're looking for is how it interacts with the body, like I said. And there are a lot of things out there that look similar to firearms. Handheld drills. I've got a nail gun and a staple gun here that I occasionally pull out there in my basement. I apologize. I should have grabbed them. That we do not detect on. And that's because, like I said, we do regular training. And it's not just what are the new firearms, but also what's not a firearm. I can tell you 2 years ago when we were doing testing, we had one testing facility where the AI really liked swing line staplers for some reason. After training, you literally correct the AI, pull those out. This one here I like to show. This gentleman walking in front is getting identified with an other device. And that's because when we first installed at this client, that device, which for some reason the folks on the floor like to carry around as if it's a rifle, did get detections. It was a matter of
sorry, Eric, are you showing a video? Because if you are, we're not seeing it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me go back and pause. I had thought that I was sharing. Did I cancel out my share?
I think you might have, because I'm just seeing
Try that again.
Four smiling faces.
There we go. How's that?
There we go.
Okay. I think it's the one after this. Let me jump forward a little bit. Here we go. This is an actual installation that we did. This is actual training data that we pulled. And that first device that he's got right there, it's some kind of wrench, I believe. When we were first there, for some reason, the folks on the shop floor liked carrying it around in the same way that you would carry around a rifle. And we detected on it quite often. You'll notice here the box that we're putting here says it's other. It's because we've got it as a part of our training database. We're not just detecting cell phones. We're not just detecting guns. We're also now detecting this big wrench and reporting it properly. The training occurred during the first week of the installation that we had there when we received this false positive data. So the software itself does learn. Your handheld scanners, if they set the system off at all, that would be something that we would very quickly train out.
All right. Are there any other questions? That was the last one from the chat.
And camera compatibility, I think you mentioned a standard, Eric.
Yeah, we just need an RTSP stream, which is pretty typical to most video solutions out there, whether we're getting that RTSP stream direct from the camera on like a secondary stream, or if we're pulling it from the VMS, that doesn't matter. There's not too many camera manufacturers out there that don't like to play well with others. At this point, I think they're in the minority. Most folks utilize RTSP. Most of them are even in the OnVIF standard, which we can utilize when installing.
Can you teach the system to detect something else that's not a gun?
Okay, I do get this one sometimes. Hey, can we detect baseball bats? Can we detect knives? Things like that. Our AI algorithm right now is specifically a firearm detection system. We're looking for handguns. We're looking for long guns. We're not reporting on anything else. Could we teach the AI to look for, for baseball bats? Sure. Could we teach it to look for knives? Absolutely. That is not something that we're doing right now. We have looked at alternate weapon detection. There are pitfalls with a lot of them. We need to add a lot more decision points to the software, and an AI can only get so specific before it becomes less useful. It is something that we're constantly considering. It's not something that we're doing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any last questions?
No, I like it. I want to say that it seems like it's super interesting. It's great. It's to get somebody. It's got to to get somebody interested in this. Are you available that if we do have a customer that wants to get into a little bit more in depth, possibly somebody who has an existing system or something new? Would you be available for some additional demonstrations, or maybe even?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am available. We have a handful of people here that are able to give that sort of assistance. We also have video resources, white papers, that sort of thing that we could pass over.
All right. Yeah, it's just a shame we live in a time like this. I loved how at the beginning you said there's parts of the country where there's a lot of guns around. But
it's
yeah,
true.
Unfortunately, people brandishing them and swinging them around is a whole different ball game, but especially with what happened a couple of weeks ago. So, but thank you so much. This is absolutely, I love new, interesting things like that. So I really appreciate it. It's way better than I thought it was when I first heard about it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and I don't see any other questions in the chat that we haven't already covered. So if no one has any final questions, we can go ahead and close things out. So thank you everyone for your time today. I will be following up with a link to the recording if you want to review anything that was covered or send it to a coworker, as well as some other information and your gift cards. So with that, everyone have a good day.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks.